In Mfundo, you and I know the terrain quite well. It's starting to flatten a little bit, so it must tell you that they are almost approaching that area where the farm is, the Mabuza farm in the areas around Barberton. So that's what you're seeing on the right of the screen, and those members of the SANDF lined up to the left of your screen. That's the reception that the cortège will receive as they make their way into the Mabuza homestead.
Indeed, Tulasiso, it does seem as though they're edging ever so closely to the Mabuza family homestead. It has flattened there, so I'm sure any moment now they will meet up with the military that is lined up there, but still quite a somber occasion.
Oh, absolutely.
I think for the people of Mpumalanga and Hlanzeni, there's a specific term some of them used, calling themselves White Hazy Crew. That is from Matsulo, Barberton, Kanyamazane, Ngodini, Tlautlau, all the way to Hazy View in Pola. They really were quite fond, and it's David Mabuza was a unifier, but for them, they felt as though he was more their father than anybody else. They would call themselves the White Hazy Crew, and felt that if ever they were to claim him, anybody in the province, they felt that there was some deep affinity because we were Maswati. So I'm sure quite a number of them that we've interacted with throughout the course of the week have been quite hurt and shocked by his passing.
Well, it makes sense, Mfundo, because he may be a politician, but you do become, because of your deeds as well, become a community elder, where everyone looks up to you. I mean, the story you are narrating now, it's basically that classic case of the community looking up to you because you have intervened, or you continue to intervene in so many situations. You give guidance outside of you being the national leader or even the provincial leader. So there are people closer to you who, by mere proximity of your location, happen to know you better and then appreciate you even better. I think it's understandable. So why there would always be the home ground advantage.
So, there's a theme that I'd like us to talk to before we go back to Dumelo, because I see that the cortège, the front end of it, the motorbikes have come to a stop there. So it does tell you that they are just outside of the farm, the family home. So they should be starting to prepare themselves for how they enter into the yard. So that tells you that they have arrived. But there's a theme that I want us to talk to before we bring in Dumelo. Moments that capture a person, unscripted moments. David Mabuza had his own. Samgele, let me bring you back in here. The moment people heard about his passing, almost instantaneously and without prompting, many people thought, after this, Slimele, that video. But there were many others. So as you talk about the community builder element, Mzwai, during on the campaign trail, where I've heard the story being told so many times this week, by the way, in Mfundo, where he would encounter someone in dire straits and feeling that a decision needs to be made, and a decision needs to be made now.
Yeah.
And the announcement would be made to that person that we're going to build you a house. Talk to me about moments, Samgel.
Those moments, for me as a young journalist covering them, coming from a rural area, were really heartwarming. There was an instance in Tshwane, was campaigning and came across this young child, destitute. There and then, he gave her his number and said, I'm adopting you. I'm not going to wait for formal processes. Here's my number. We are changing schools for you. You are going to eat what my children eat. You are going to go to the same schools, similar schools as my children go to. And that for me spoke about, it showed me a man who, when you read the ANC's diagnostic report, was not aloof from his communities. It reminds me of the speech of Dr. Rukoza at the funeral of Ray Phiri. You'd remember Didi Mabuza built Ray Phiri's family a mansion in Bushbuck Ridge from his own pocket, not using government resources. And it just showed you of a man whom you've become to read about, that he used power for his own self-enrichment and not for the greater good of the people. Yes, he had his own flaws, but with all of those flaws, he was also able to take from those riches, quote unquote, that he may have had and give it back to the people by building them houses, giving them shelter. There were instances where off camera you would be walking with him and he would just reach into his pocket and say, "Akunakudla la ekhaya. Angeke ngene la ekhaya ngabonakala ukuthi ngene emabuzi." And he would say, "Mama cela ugcwalise ifridge." Away from the glare of the cameras. And that would just show you that there was a human touch to him. And on that particular aspect of the ANC's diagnostic report of leaders being aloof from their communities, he was not part of those. He was very much in touch with his community and was able to call a business person there and then and say, "I'm assigning Mdeni waka Sibanyoni for you to build a home for them." We interviewed Ruben Mataje earlier on, the Provincial Secretary of Limpopo, and he recalled of how in Peter Mokaba region and also in Vembe, on the spot, during the 2022 election campaign, 2019 election campaign, David Mabuza would just build houses for people instantly like that and would give them and hand them over fully furnished with everything. And that just tells you that this is a man who used his power and influence to also change the lives of the ordinary people, which is something that many people don't speak about. And President referred to him as Ikatela Mpumalanga, the cat of Mpumalanga, a cat with 9 lives. That cortege going through those rows right now symbolizes that the cat has exhausted its 9 lives.
The sun has set on the province of Mpumalanga. But you know, jokingly, some of his administrators sometimes found that kind-heartedness quite frustrating, I must say, because they'd always say, here comes somebody, they're going to ask the premier for something, and then after that we must make it happen. So somehow, you think they would also be somewhat gatekeeping, that don't come, you're going to ask for something, and then they'll say, oh, this young man has asked for an opportunity or bursary, and then they'll say, make sure he gets it. And then you're thinking, but what did I do? I didn't commit. But that was the kind of man he was, that if you can just come close to him and there's any need, he will want it resolved there and then.
Before you jump in, Samgele, I can see you are itching. Let's just update our viewers in terms of what's happening to the right of your screen. So the cortege is just outside the farm out in Barberton. What's happening now? In fact, I think let's check in with Katla. Tumelo. It's been a long day. Tumelo, from where you can see, what's the vantage point where you are? What can you see? Because our understanding is that now it's the preparations before they actually enter the farm there.